All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us again for another episode of our JAC, Jamaican American Community Conversations. So this afternoon, we're going to talk about preserving culture through performance. And with me, I have Azaria and I have Andrew. And again, thank you so much for joining. Please like and subscribe to our channel. Tell your friends and family to come join in right now. All right, it's going to be a very fun topic. So, Zaria, I turn it over to you.
Hello, hello. Thank you, thank you. So my name is Azaria Tyler, and I am a member of the prestigious Jamaican American Connection. And I am a first generation of Jamaican descent, born in Miami, Florida. I moved to Connecticut in 2017, and I've been here ever since. I currently work at the legendary Schubert Theater, located in New Haven, Connecticut, where I am the Group Sales and Business Development Associate. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Andrew Clarke, the Executive Director at Braata Productions. Hi, Andrew.
Hello, Azari. How you doing?
I am well, well. These allergies killing me, but I am good.
Yep. Mine are of a different nature, but yes, it's allergy season.
Yes, it is. So, Andrew, on our conversation today, it's all about preserving culture through performance, which is all up your alley. All right. So, I'm excited to have this conversation, let the people in on some things, and just go over a couple things with you. All right.
Sound
So, I got a couple questions. So, the first one I have for you is what inspired you to start Brada Productions? We got to start there.
okay. So I'm gonna try to make this a short story. I tell this often. But interestingly, I lived in Miami before. Lived in Miami, and there was not much in terms of the arts. But growing up, people always said, you should move to New York. You should go to Broadway. So I packed my car up and drove up to New York. And my first introduction to theater was in the Caribbean community,
Mm.
community arts groups. And I remember a particular production I was in. I think it was probably my first and only. I was sitting on the floor and I thought to myself, gosh, they didn't have much of a set.
Mm.
I thought, wow, this is not what I went to performing arts school for. Cannot be the extent of Caribbean arts excellence in New York City. And having been
Mm.
here a few months during that time, I'd been to a couple productions and it was pretty much of the same. And so I was like, clearly, I'm gonna have to start my own thing because I'd also been trying to break into the American theater community, i.e. auditioning for Broadway, and that had its own challenges because you have to be equity, you have to have a manager, agent, kind of Jamaican
Mhm.
have no place in a American theater really because there are hardly any Caribbean productions being produced. And so that necessitated that I start a Braata, to give artists like myself a platform to showcase their talents, but also to bring more to the theatrical space. So this
Yeah.
isn't saying that we didn't have people producing theater, but I necessarily wasn't impressed with the quality and the attention to detail. I just wanted to do something more. So, yeah, that's where it came out.
That's amazing. That's awesome. But also the truth, right? And I can tell you from living in Miami all my life and then coming up here, I have seen such a difference, such a change. And so thank you for opening that door for many more to come up and that are around that just want exactly what you said, right? So that's amazing. I love that you started this and that was how this came about. Let me ask you, what keep you up at night pertaining to keeping the culture alive?
Do you want the real answer?
I want the real answer. I do.
How we gonna pay these bills? That's
Yeah.
what keeps me up at night, literally. I started Brata 16 years ago, and initially when we started it, we were doing it for fun. We had professional aspirations, but a lot of us were just giving up our time, and so that happened on a part-time basis. Like all of us had full-time jobs, and then we were doing arts on the side. 16 years later, this is my full-time job. And I
Mm-hmm.
have four other staff members that every two weeks may have to run payroll. So I'm no longer just responsible for myself, but I'm responsible for a community
Yeah.
of staff members, and also a community of artists that look to Braata for the Bankra, the Christmas Grand Market, Caribites, the theatrical production, the after
Yep.
programs, teaching artists that look to us, them say, boy, when is my contract for January coming? You know, and in the landscape that we're in right now, arts is under threat. You know, the
Yes.
NEA just put out a notice that they're defunding a lot of arts organizations. So people have lost anywhere from 10, 20, upwards of $60,000, you know, from their funding mix. So that is what keeps me up at night. How do we pay these
Yeah.
bills? Because I don't think we're in 2025, we're way past that phase of artists doing this for the love. It's
Yep.
not just for the love, because if you want them to do it for the love and you want it to be good quality, then one, they have to be trained. They have to spend time continuing to work on that art. They have to rehearse, and all of that takes time and sacrifice. So the decision then, especially in an American context, is, do I go to work or do I do my art? And if I choose
Mm.
not to go to work, then my art has to be able to compensate me at a level that's commensurate with what I would get if I decided to do a 9 to 5. So that is what keeps me up at night.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's huge, right? Especially in today's world with this administration, everything. I mean, I could understand that 100%, working in the arts. Right now I just had a show the other day where I commissioned artists to perform. And like you said, you can't think that artists is just gonna do this. Well, one, a lot of artists have a 9 to 5, and then they're still doing other stuff on the side to keep up with their artistry. And that takes away time out, that they need to be paid for that. And so I 100% understand that. And it's not just doing it for yes, we want to do things for the love, yes, but we got our families to feed. We still got to keep the roof over our head, you
Right.
know. So I completely understand that, and artists should definitely be paid. And that's why the work that we do is so important. But also, folks got to understand it ain't free. We need some support. We need the help, to keep it going, especially to continue to keep the doors open and pave the way. So I completely understand that. And I hope that through this, the next couple years, things pick up. Um, as it's looking right now, we're gonna keep the hope alive, and we just gonna keep pushing forward, because I do know that this too shall pass, and
Mhm.
I do trust that we can continue to help and provide funding towards artists in different ways. Um, and so you said something 16 years ago. That's a long time, And so as you were segueing into it a little bit, you for me it's what inspire you? Like what's keeping you inspired to continue to innovate the work that you do? Because 16 years is a long time.
There are a number of things that keep me inspired. Gosh, I hope I remember all of these things, because they're all very complex in their own ways. So I'll just name them without trying to explain all of them. I think part of it is the constant struggle, especially cultural artists
Mhm.
don't get the same sort of respect that popular contemporary artists get. So if we're pitted against reggae and dancehall, soca artists, it's always, well, them people they can sell tickets, them can attract 5,000.
Mm.
Can you do? So we're doing you a favor putting you on the program because you're getting exposure.
Mhm.
So that keeps me motivated, because I hope that at some point in my lifetime, cultural artists will be seen and valued in the same
Yeah.
popular artists are, celebrity performers are. I recently got a message from someone and they said, oh, they offered a particular amount to pay me for performing. which is below my normal rate. But I then said to them, "How long do you want me to perform for?" And they said 45
Right.
minutes. And I said, "That's close to an hour. Normally, I perform for more for 15 minutes. So you're asking for 3 times as long for way less." And then
Mm-hmm.
they proceed to say, "Well, there's a popular soca artist that's doing it for free." And it took everything within me to say, "Well, go ask them to do the." I've grown so resentful of, and that's probably a strong word, when people pit us against other artists that maybe
Mm-hmm. But that's the truth.
but we
Yeah.
can't because we're constantly being asked to do this for the love. So I stay motivated because I'm hoping we're on a path to getting respect for
Yeah.
artists. So that's one thing that keeps me motivated. Another thing that comes to mind is, and this is, I think I can credit my work ethic to both my mother and my father, uh,
Mm.
who are just uneducated, undereducated, but that didn't stop them from continuing to work hard and contribute to society positively, but also to ensure that their families were taken care of. I think of a phrase that says the top of one mountain is the bottom of the top of one mountain is the bottom of the next. And
Mm.
think about the work that we're doing, that we are constantly evolving and constantly working to be better. So a friend of mine asked, like in Christmas, after Christmas Grand Market, "Hey, Angie, don't you ever go out and celebrate? You don't feel accomplished?" And I'm like, they kind of have no time to feel accomplished because we got the next production that we're like 2 months behind on. So I'm constantly
Mm.
on like this journey to ensure that the work that we're doing, we're living up to our name. Braata means more, it means extra. Are we always bringing something more to the cultural landscape? Because if we're not, then we failed at our mission, and the vision is lost, and we're no longer necessary.
Yes. And you're always climbing. You're always trying. You're always looking at ways to evolve, and grow. And I can say, as a with my father, my mama, same thing. We don't just stand still. We're always trying to be better. No one's looking for just a handout, but you're also looking to evolve. You're looking to grow, and that's the key thing. And I like that's one of the key points for you too. And so how does broader production engage with local community and promote the Caribbean culture?
Our work is all community centric. We are a community based organization, CBO,
Yeah.
a physical space, but all our work is community centered. I mean, from the performances that the Braata singers do in senior centers to our after school programs, they are in the communities that we live, work, and play in. It's Queens, Brooklyn, Bronx. We do have aspirations of bringing the work mainstream. So
Hmm.
hope is that, within the next 5 to 10 years, Brata is among one of the producers of an off-Broadway or Broadway production. And so we would not necessarily be focused on serving our community, but bringing the work into the mainstream and into a broader audience. But easily 95% of our work is community centric. It is for our people, by our
Yeah.
people. I mean, we know them. They're grandmas and grandpas, parents that we see.
Yeah.
We see them in the supermarket, and then also come to Bankra and Carabites and Christmas Grand Market every year.
Yes, yes. I love that you hit on something with community is, yes, you want to grow bigger too, but you're in community, you're in the senior centers, you're everywhere. And that's how you engage those around you, but then also you're spreading the culture, because in those senior centers and places like that, you have people who are not just Caribbean, and so they're learning and they're getting a taste of the culture, so you are definitely sharing your talent in ways that I love right there, because a lot of people, you think of mainstream, sometimes they hit one group of people, and
Yeah.
not everybody can hit, not everybody, because one, let me back it up. The arts theater is a luxury these days because it's expensive, you know. So the work that you're doing, you are allowing those around to get a taste, to get a feel. You're preparing them for when you do get on that big stage, you know, even bigger. Yes.
Yeah, access is really important. We want to give
Yes.
our people access to good quality entertainment and cultural offerings. There is no reason, and yes, we can't afford the Broadway tickets right now. You know, there's a particular Broadway show. I think the tickets are going for like 500 or
Man.
$1,000 with Denzel Washington. Not gonna reach that show there, but power to they're doing a fantastic job. But unfortunately,
Yes.
average theater goer cannot afford that ticket. So how can we as community-based organizations ensure that we're creating programming that's comparable to that, that is for our
Yeah.
can access, that they can access?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's not just community theater. You're definitely giving people a rich performance at that. You know, not saying that community theater is not rich, but it's another level, you know. And so again, always evolving and, you know, introducing the work to another generation. So tell me why it's important to keep our rich Caribbean culture in the forefront in the diaspora.
A number of reasons, but the one that comes readily to mind is a saying by Marcus Garvey. A people without a knowledge of their past is like a tree without roots.
Mm,
Us doing
mm,
culture work here in the diaspora is keeping us connected to the roots, to our
mm.
roots, to the source. And you don't recognize your need for a taste of home until you've not had it and then you experience it.
Yeah,
I didn't know I even missed this thing. And
yeah,
and you then recognize the impact it has on your body, your mind, your psyche, your everything. Like I, every time I go back to the Caribbean, wherever I go in the Caribbean, home to Jamaica, Guyana, Trinidad, St. Lucia, it re-energizes me in a way that New York or no other place in America can, because that
yes,
home is the place I'm most familiar with. It's where I belong. And so a lot of us don't have that option sometimes to go home regularly. So what we are doing here is reminding people of home. We're giving them a taste of home, and that's super important. It keeps you connected to the source. It feeds the
yes.
soul. Sometimes what we're doing with, and I see it on the faces of people that sometimes they're moved to tears, or
Mm,
we finish a performance and an older person comes to me and says, "Young man, thank you so much. You reminded me of home. You remind me of my grandmother.
mm.
You remind me of my childhood." I'm like, yeah, we're in the right place. We're doing the right thing.
Yeah, yeah. 100%. You know, I gotta give props, and I'm so thankful for Jack because moving from Miami and coming here with my now husband, you know, we have no family here.
Mhm.
Wait, let me rephrase that. We had no family here, right? And I remember when I first moved here, I started working at Long Wharf Theater, and someone said, you know, this is the Lily White Theater, and I'm thinking, man, but where's the culture? You know, at that time, I was not. I hadn't got my feet wet. I didn't go around New Haven, and so I think Kay was like the second person I met at Longworth Theater at a show. And we got to talking, and she was like, "No, we got to reel you in. We got to reel you in." And so I'm so thankful for you all and for the work that you do because you get homesick. You know, right now there's so many people who are lost and they're not in tune with their culture and their families. You know, and I think about even me sometimes, you know, when I get a little homesick, I say, "Hey, what you doing? Talk to me." You know, it's important because especially with the work that we do in our 9 to 5s, you know, it's a lot. You know, it's a lot, and so definitely being able to have community with our sisters and brothers in organizations like yours, you know, it's so tasteful. And like you said, to the little old lady that just come up to you and just say thank you.
Yeah.
because it's something that you can get. Everybody can't get a ticket to go home, and even right now, even more right now, um, people are afraid to go home. Okay, they're gonna be afraid to go home for the next 4 years, and probably a little bit after that because we just don't know what's going on. And
Mhm.
so, making sure we have access to people like you, productions like you know, what you're doing, it's gonna put that joy on folks' face. You know, this holiday season, man, I can't wait. You know, even this it is June for the Caribbean Heritage Month, you know, it's gonna be a nice bashment. I can't wait, you know. I even got my family coming up because they never got a chance to see what it is up here. But my father's always down there and he see me on Instagram and stuff like that. All right, let me come get a taste of what New Haven got going on. Let me get a taste of what New England is doing. So, you know, it doesn't go unrecognized whatsoever. But I gotta say thank you for that. Um, and I was because my next thing was gonna be, do you think it will get lost? But you just answered it. You know, the work that you're doing and putting those smiles on folks' face, reminding them of their culture, their roots, is how it don't get lost. You know.
But
Um,
I would still answer that question and say, even in spite of that, we
yeah.
run the risk of losing our culture if we're not careful.
And
Because
why you say that?
you become complacent and you think, well, a Braata is gonna always be here. I could name a myriad of other cultural organizations that are doing this work. They're gonna always be here.
Mhm.
Assume they're gonna be here because they're doing well, and if we don't support those organizations, whether it's making a donation or purchasing a ticket or just attending a free event because funders
Yeah.
want to see impact and reach, we run the risk of losing that culture. And also, because of the impact of popular culture on people's psyche, I think we're in a cycle now where is just the next soundbite. What is hot and popping on TikTok,
Mm.
Snapchat is gospel. And if we're not careful, everything else gets usurped because we are so focused on the now. What is
Mhm.
happening right now. There was that time, and I hope that time never returns. Maybe in the last year or two, somebody started some rumor. You know the song, Sammy Plan Peace a Condong a Gully and
Yes.
Silly Kill Poor. Everybody knows I saw the song go. Somebody start some rumor on social media say the actual lyrics are supposed to be Sammy plant peas and corn. I know the lyricist, like he's very much still alive. I know that him right. Became a whole thing, and it probably was started as a joke. But again, if you're not careful, what if
Yeah.
now becomes the definition of this thing, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, man, a peas and can. And there was another one. There was another one that was making the rounds, having to do with the same lyrics thing, and it's like, no, that's not what the culture say. Oh, I have another one for you. I spent a year. I wish I did. I spent a month in Ghana many years,
Mm.
and part of our time there was to spend time with young people in a primary school. So I
Okay.
am first thing me I do if me I teach nothing, me I teach Jamaican culture because me there in the motherland, me I go give
Yeah.
a taste of what is going on, what was brought over and you know morphed into something else in the Caribbean. So I decided to teach them Manuel Road. Go down a Manuel Road, girl and boy, figure broke rock stone. Tell me why the little Ghanaian people them go tell me say, I know so the sango is Galangia. You know what they're thinking of? The TOK song.
Go.
The Azaria. Yes. We're not careful, the culture can easily
Woo.
be lost.
You're
It can
right.
be, it can be baked into something else and morphed into something, and then suddenly it's not the authentic real true
Yeah.
culture as we know it. So yeah, it's not safe. I think Brata and other cultural workers like ourselves, we're standing at I often say this, we're the guardians at a gate that is fast closed.
Mm.
We are at the gate and we are trying to hold out against the truth because if we're not careful, yeah, the gate are gonna lock, not to be opened again.
Yeah, yeah.
So the work
Wow.
continues. We
You're
still
right. I do see it on TikTok all the time where they're changing, and you're right. You're right. I didn't think of it that way. Thank you. Absolutely. And shoot, you said the Guardians of the what?
guardians of the of at a gate that is fast closing.
Mm,
I,
I
sh- I
like
should
that.
I should probably what you call that? What you call that something there?
Well, you want to say a trademark that you gotta write that
We need
in.
to copyright that. Somebody, and is there a copyright lawyer on here? Put that on a t-shirt. I might chop somebody see this
Yes.
and it's on a t-shirt next week. I'm gonna get no money for it.
Boy, y'all
But
will
we
put
heard
something
it
on
here
a
first.
t-shirt real quick too. Oh my gosh. So let me ask you, how do you see the organization adapting to change in the arts and culture landscape as you move us in that direction?
Yeah. Change is inevitable. Change is in
Mm-hmm.
a lot of what I'll say in response to these questions is based on experience. And
Yeah.
as I ask that question, I immediately think of a gentleman that he was Caucasian.
Okay.
And he was one of the program officers at the New York State Council on the Arts at the time. And he said to me, we were submitting a grant for Braata. We were called Braata Folk Singers at the time, and we were submitting a grant to get funding for a folk arts program. And he said to me,
Okay.
"Well, you guys aren't authentic folk because you choreograph, you arrange your songs, and you know everything. Yes, the instruments that you use are contemporary." And I thought, well, if we're not doing that, then we're not going to attract anybody but folks that are my parents' age and that
Mm-hmm.
aging older and dying. So there,
Mm-hmm.
so that's reality number one. We have
Yeah.
to involve the instruments of now to at
Yeah.
least be able to sing those songs. So if you know, add one little trap set and one keyboard, where people are go with Congo, where you gonna go with Congo guitarists, and where am I gonna find those instrumentalists? First of
Yeah.
so he's not recognized the inherent challenges that we have within the art form. You're just saying to
Mm,
me as a funder, oh, you have to remain authentic. And there are colleagues that have responded to me that way. They've said, well, you're not gonna buy your CDs. I'm not gonna play your CDs on radio because you have contemporary instruments in there. And I think that's fine. There are purists that believe
yeah.
work has to remain in its authentic form. I am not one of those folks because I think in order for this sort of work to survive, you must appeal to younger people, you must appeal to a broader audience. Otherwise, your audience will be small and shrink until it is no more. And that is when the culture will truly be lost.
Mm. That brings me to my next question. Because how do you engage? How do you think the diaspora um should engage with their family members not born on the island? Like I think of myself, right? Like I'm first generation born here in America, and then I now have my son who's 10 months old. So how do you think we should engage? I mean, you pretty much hit it a little bit, but what do you have to say more on that?
It starts at home. It starts.
Yeah.
There's a video that I think was on TikTok, of a mom. It's probably a spoof, but she was talking to her son. He's British, and she had talking her patois, and she would call him Joe. She said, "Joe, say good on, say go up," and of course he was saying it with a British accent. Poor guy could not.
I think I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes.
Because I'm sure it's made the rounds. Here's what I thought of, and I made that comment on the video. I said, "Why are you waiting?" Oh, she was preparing him for a trip to go to Jamaica. I said, "Mommy,
Mm,
you did have this boy picnic for what 18, 20 years, and I know you try to give him one crash course in a Jamaican culture. You should have been sharing that with him ever since he was a child.
hmm
Been hearing those words. He should have been by." bilingual by the time he went to prep school, high school. Everybody should have hear much chopping I'm Jamaican, same as him a chatting I'm British accent. And so I think I'm saying all of that to say it's key, it starts at home. That you
Mm,
introduction to their culture at home. Speak the culture, cook your food,
yeah,
introduce them to one TV show like yo, them go up on YouTube and show them Miss Lou or one Oliver or the Oliver Large series.
yeah,
Any one of those things. That's the first point of access because you are their first teachers. And
yeah,
you avail yourself to all the cultural organizations that have events. Bring them to one JAC event. Get them come
yeah,
the culture festival in a June so them can see it in person for real. Go to
yeah,
events that are in our community and say, this is that thing that I was telling you about at home. Now you can experience it in real life. But we can't expect that they're going to go on this journey of discovery if we don't plant that seed.
yeah. That's important. Planting the seed for sure. Like right now, man, I probably talk to my dad at least 3 times a day. Okay. If I don't call that man when I wake up, I'm gonna get it. Okay. But one of the things that he do with my son, which I love so dearly, he talks to him in patois. My son look at him with mouth wide open, like he's just trying to catch the words, catch
Okay.
it. Every
Yes.
and it's so important because if he don't hear it, if he don't get that, somebody say, so where are you from? Like, where's your folks from? It's gonna get lost. Exactly what you said. One thing for sure, Kay don't play. She called. She said, "Let me speak." She don't play, and I love that. She also introduced it to everybody that come in this community. Um, so you have to keep the culture alive, and I respect that for sure. And that you have to just introduce it to them when they're young. You got to keep it going. It's it ain't no front. So hey,
It's a
let's
part
see
of you.
here.
We share other aspects of ourselves with our kids. Why not share?
Mhm.
That's an important.
Mhm. And one thing that I love too is it's not just one part of the Caribbean. Your production is introducing all styles. I think that's key too. Like you say, you're Jamaican, but you got folks from all over. So bringing them to the Caribbean festival. You get a little taste of all the different islands and stuff. You get a taste, you get a sense, you get to hear. So that's important. So I definitely will be bringing my baby this year so he could go dance with us and see everybody. Let's see. We got a question in the chat. What is your favorite folk song to sing?
There's so many. It's hard. It's hard.
Right, I bet it is.
So many. I mean, long time. Girl, when me roast me yellow yam and me slice it in a two, how nice it will be with the ackee and the saltfish. Oh my God.
Mm.
Our folk is so rich and
Yes,
we have a folk song for almost anything. As mundane as the thing might be that you do, there is probably a folk song that was written for that. There's a folk song for when people used to go a river and wash. It is washed there down a riverside, shirt and pillowcase. It is washed
yes.
down a riverside, curtain trim with lace. If you play domino, play domino, play domino. Rain a fall, still the dam won't budge at all. Rain a fall, please a blow, but the dam water low, the rain a
Hey.
rat in the house. Rata mad and law cut one night shot. Rata laugh, ha ha. Rata bread and law bust him big gut. Rata laugh. I could go on for days. So
I
lot
see. I
of
love it. Yes.
choose a favorite, but Yellow Yam definitely is high on the list. And
Wait, what was the last? What'd you say?
long time girl. This long time girl, me never see whichever every Jamaican know long time girl. That's like the unofficial Jamaican welcome song.
Yes, yes. I love it. I love your voice.
Thank
Oh,
you.
it's just so breathtaking. Yes. All right, so what are some of your goals for broader production in the next 5 years?
Yeah, very, very good question. That's an interesting question because we're in a strategic planning process now. It's
Mm-hmm.
gonna happen over the next 8 months, and that will help chart the course of what the next 5 years for us as an organization will look like.
Yeah.
It's important at this time. We've post-pandemic, Braata has grown about 3 times its size.
Wow.
Yeah. And that is really exponential growth considering all
Yes.
considering in the funding community, the whole landscape of the country. That is really, really great because post pandemic, a lot of arts organizations actually closed down. Uh,
Yeah.
so I was very keen on seeing, and that was done without an actual like roadmap. We didn't have a strategic plan with these pillars saying these are
Yeah.
the things that we're going to be hitting in order to grow to X level, and we still managed to grow. So I figure, I say, can you imagine what it would look like if we had a roadmap? Because if you know how
Mm,
we go from Brooklyn to Queens, you managed to make it there without a map. Imagine, and it took you 2 hours maybe. If you knew it have to take and you put in your GPS and say this is the most efficient route, you're now getting there in 30 minutes. That's what I'm hoping for the organization, so that we'll get
mm,
that we need to sustain ourselves. You know, this
of
is a
course.
business, we are a non-profit, but it's still a business. And how do we keep this business viable? Because we cannot keep the doors open unless we can pay the bills, X, Y, and Z. So that's what I'm hoping
Yeah.
that in the next 5 years, um, sustainability will not be in question, you know, so we'll be able to grow personnel on staff capacity, but also increase compensation for our artists. So there is no question when them come, they can give of their best because they're not caught between. And you'd mentioned it earlier. You know, I'm envisioning a world where artists are not working a 9 to 5. That
Yeah.
is what they do because they do it from Broadway. You know, you from Broadway, you get $2,000 a week.
Yeah.
That's so,
Yeah.
so, and that becomes their job. Whether that contract, and you hope that Broadway show stays up for a year or 2 years, but that's your job for the. You know, if you think about nothing else, you wake up, beard, go
Mm-hmm.
gym, and head to the theater and go back
Yep.
to sleep to rest your voice because that's what you're doing. You probably take a voice class here and there,
Mm-hmm.
doing your art full time, and that's the world I envision. That we may not be able to hire 100 artists full time, but at least we'll be able to sustain a core of people that this is what they do.
Yes, yes, that is so inspiring. Yes, I love that, and I pray we can. I love that goal. There's it's a scary world we live in, but as long as we keep trying and we take the routes that you're saying, we hope that we get there for sure. All right. So another question in the chat: what was one of your most memorable performances? I seen a couple of them. I was looking them up.
Um,
Tell me.
I'm sorry. One of my more memorable performances. Uh, it's probably not what I should consider memorable, but it's memorable because it was a funny moment. And it's one of the reasons I love theater. We it was in our infancy. We were together maybe at that time a few months, not a year.
Mm,
And we were at, I'll never forget this. We were at the opening of a library, a small library
mm.
in the Bronx. And we sang them, and there's a particular song, and I can tell you, me feel like that song the curse. Because every major time we perform that song, people have forgotten their lyrics. Like, make I tell you something, Azaria. In the song, we reach one particular verse, and the lady for do our verse, and when me tell you say, deer in headlights, electricity enough, ladies couldn't help her. And she look round, middle of the performance, with an audience in front of us, and say, what if it's there? I'll never forget that. As long as
Oh
it earth. And it remains like an internal joke. Anytime something happens, we go, all of it, especially founding members, we
my
go, 100%. It can't fall back. Oh my gosh, never forgot that. So you'd hope that one of my member performances would be like, I sang to an
God.
audience of 1,000 people, or for Queen Elizabeth. No. At the time when the lady did forget her lyrics and she say, I'm gonna say. But hopefully that answered the question. I wish I had a better one for you.
No, no, but that's funny. That's good. I can only imagine. Because one thing about us, we don't hide it. We are our true, authentic selves. Okay. So Andrew, let me as we come to the end here, let me just how do people stay in touch with Braata? How do people connect with you? How do people reach you?
Or you can find us on all social media platforms. Braata is spelled Braata Productions. That's Productions with an S. So Braata Productions, one word. We cannot come off X, but we're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook. And then of course you can visit our website, brataproductions.org. That's brataproductions.org, not .com. We're a nonprofit, tax exempt, so that's how you'll be able to find out about the suite of services. Oftentimes, when people think of Brata, they immediately think of the Brata singers because that's like with frontman, Beyonce. Everybody know about Beyonce. Nobody know remember about Kelly and the other lady. But
And the other lady.
sorry, Michelle. Nobody remembers about Michelle and Kelly. But so Bratty
I
Singers
can't.
is like our Beyonce. They're our front man. But we have a range of a suite of services. So we do theater, we do after school programming, we have a suite of family festivals, Bangor Caribites, Christmas Grand Market. So it's an opportunity also to explore the range of offerings that we have. And yeah, so that is it in a nutshell.
Yes, all right. You gave it to me. And what do folks have look what can we see coming up? Anything coming up?
Yes, absolutely. Brata Singers returns off Broadway. Last year we did
Woo.
a concert the off Broadway for 14 shows in
Wow.
Lower Manhattan. We are now in Midtown this time. Step
Okay.
from Broadway, and it's a very limited four-show run the last weekend in June. So we're playing Friday, two shows on Saturday, and then a show on Sunday. So we encourage, implore folks to come on out. There are evening shows. There's a matinee on Saturday. So I know some people from Connecticut and the environs. No one driving at it on the night bus. So you can come early, see a matinee, and still head back to get home before it's dark to Connecticut.
Yes, I love that. And th- them roads here in Connecticut dark. We don't have much light.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yes.
yeah. And it's also in Midtown, so like you can just jump on like what's that? The Metro North. You can take the
Yeah.
Metro North into the city and
Yeah.
come see a show right off Broadway, and then take that back on home to New Haven.
I love it. I love it. And you're gonna be our MC at our gala on September 20th. So
Indeed,
we look forward to that. We get to see you in the flesh here.
happy to be returning. When me tell you, say pressure, pressure, holy heap pressure. As every year, people are like, "Is he gonna be as funny as he was last year?"
Ah,
Like, me no know. It depends
let
upon
me tell you,
the room. You can't
I
play
was at
it.
listen, I was at gala and you definitely had me laughing, okay?
But
It
I
was the
don't know.
moment you said something about the you had the choice of fish or you could do jerk chicken. It was like, I see how the room is. Talk about people. It was too funny. Because it was some people, it was like, well, I don't want to suck on bone. Go
Uh-huh,
ahead and eat your
yes.
fish. Oh my gosh.
That
Well,
gala is always a treat. They them know if a party. Them know if a party. They all
yes.
positive one. Their hearts are open. And so for me, it's not even I'm not even working that night. I am literally having fun because the audience is such a treat to spend a few hours with everybody just partying, celebrating culture, and of
Yes.
course, doing that for a worthy cause.
And I love that you said that because we are going to be continuing to celebrate the culture for
Yeah.
sure because we're keeping it alive for sure.
No time more important than right now. We have to love.
Yes. Aw, well, thank you, Andrew. It was such a pleasure getting to know you more, speaking with you, just hearing the raw truth. I thank you for that. Um, do you have anything else you want to go over?
Nope, that is all from me. Thank you very much for having me. This opportunities like this to talk about not just the work that I do along with Braata, but just giving platforms like this to cultural artists for us to talk about traditional culture, in particular, authentic traditional culture. Really, really important. So
Yeah.
really thank Jack for creating a space like this. This series, I look forward to it because
Yes.
remember, me did the one series. I was in the interviewer chair when we spoke about colon cancer among
Yeah.
black men. So that was really, really important. So I laud Jack for keeping this series going. Because a lot of us, admittedly, we've fallen off the virtual programming ladder because the world opened back up and we in person. And it's great that Jack continues to create a space like this. But some way that we can watch something like this nice on a Sunday evening while we eat with rice and peas and chicken. I agree with
That's it. Yes, that's it.
That is true.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's another one in the bag, another community conversation that we get to share monthly. Azaria, thank you so much for being available to host. And
Thank you.
thank you so much for being here. Thank you for, taking time out of your busy schedule to talk about
Absolutely.
Braata and, sharing how you do work in the community. Um, My name is Craig. I'm the Vice President of the Jamaican American Connection. I thank you guys so much for joining and tuning in. Please like and share, subscribe to our channel, Jack New Haven, and stay tuned for May 18th. We have another community conversations coming up. Promotion will come out soon, so be on the lookout. All right, everyone, have a good afternoon.